Hey guys, Chris Ross here with A Digit Media, and today I have something a little bit unusual, I would probably say, that I want to talk about, and that is this whole concept of 10x. Now, if you've been around for quite some time, we've heard a lot of people talk about 10x, right? Grant Cardone has talked about 10x. Name any online coach or any kind of like famous entrepreneur, and you likely heard the whole phrase 10x a dozen times. And if you're anything like me, every time I hear it, I immediately just kind of shut my brain off because I'm just like, oh my goodness, I think I've heard everything it is that I need to hear about 10x. But today I have something for you that will likely change your mind if you're just as jaded as I am about the whole 10x concept. And that is the book 10x is easier than 2x. And I picked up this book because I joined this particular mastermind, and I wanted to really kind of highlight a story in the book about a financial advisor who took the whole 10x is easier than 2x principle and was able to grow his practice from zero to now over $1 billion in investable assets over the last 20 some plus odd years of his career. And he actually had to start over twice. So very interesting story. There's a lot of takeaways that I think you guys will be able to get from this particular video. So let's get into it. Right, for me personally, I'm not a big reader, but obviously, as a business owner, right, you need to always be learning something new, right? You can't just stay stagnant in your current mindset. And for most business owners who are looking to scale, right, you're always looking for ways to do this efficiently. And one of the masterminds that I'm in that I most recently signed up with, they had a module in there on what they call quantum growth, right? And one of the books that was recommended for reading to kind of go through this particular module is 10x is easier than 2x. I believe the author name is Benjamin Hardy, if I'm not mistaken. So, when it was like, hey, here's this required reading, we're going to go through this, I was already like, a book. I got to read a book here. I got a bunch of books behind me on my shelf. A lot of these I have read, some of them I have not read yet, but went on Amazon, got the book, downloaded it for the Kindle app. Went to a little coffee shop in my neighborhood and was like, all right, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to break the book out, and I'm going to, read through this thing. And as I started reading through the book, I got to chapter 2 in in this book. There's a story about a financial advisor, right? That's in there. And that immediately piqued my interest because obviously I work with financial advisors. And before I kind of get into that particular story, right, the whole premise of the book really talks about how 10x is easier than 2x. Now, meaning, right, the amount of effort it takes in order for you to, let's just say you're going to double your conversion rate, or you're going to double your revenue, or double anything, right? It takes just as much effort to do that than what it would be for you to 10x that. Now, one of the big selling points or talking points in this particular book is if you really start to think what 10x may mean to you, there's probably going to be fewer ways that you can achieve a 10x goal versus achieving a 2x goal, right? Meaning, let's say that you're at $1 million in revenue and you want to double that to $2 million. Well, there's probably 5 or 6 different ways that you could potentially go about doing that. But if you want to go from, $1 million to $10 million in 1 year, there aren't going to be 5 or 6 different ways that you can make that big significant jump. It's probably only going to be maybe 1 or 2 ways that you will probably be able to do that in a year. And by focusing on a 10x goal, it really gives you the ability to be more laser focused and pick one particular path that you're going to follow in order to achieve that goal versus you having 5 or 6 different paths, and then you're trying to figure out which one of these is going to be the best one. And you're going to work just as hard to achieve both goals, right? Especially if you're unfocused. If you pick 2 or 3 different ways to basically 2x your revenue, right? You could be spreading yourself thin, second guessing yourself, whatever the case may be. If you only pick one path to get to this $10 million revenue in 1 year, right? You're only going to go down that one path. You're probably less likely to give up, right? If you encounter any kind of obstacle, you're just going to, get to that obstacle, figure out how you can overcome it, and then move on and get to the next step, right? So that's kind of really the premise of this book. Now, the story in here about this particular financial advisor, his name is Chad Williamson. If I'm pronouncing his name correctly. It's a gentleman that's based out of California. Now, he started, I believe, some 20 some odd years ago. He came in as a 24-year-old working for Merrill Lynch. And a part of the training program for Merrill Lynch at that time was you had 18 months as a new advisor to come in, and you had to, capture $15 million in assets under management in 18 months. And if you didn't meet that criteria, you were out, right? They were just not going to keep you. So, that's a big goal for somebody brand new, 24-year-old, never done, anything related to financial services. And you got to figure out how you're going to capture this $15 million in AUM. So what he thought about was, all right, well, I'm going to start out by saying I'm only going to work with people who have at least $100,000 in investable assets. And of course, people on the team thought that was kind of crazy. Like, hey, you're young, you're talking to people twice your age, right? Who are you going to convince that's going to allow you to manage at least $100,000 in investable assets, and you're, fresh on the street, right? So this guy spent 6 months cold calling people, just dialing for dollars, right? This is what, and people still cold call today. I get cold calls all the time, but 20 years ago, people were definitely cold calling a lot. So this guy's just dialing every day. 6 months go by and absolutely nothing. And then one day out of the blue, a gentleman called him back that he had, had a conversation with. This guy was about to retire, and he had $600,000 that he wanted to roll over into some kind of investment account. And that was the very first client that he got, after 6 months. So this is 6 months of toiling. Now, in today's time frame, 6 months is probably more like 6 years, because people want results immediately. Nobody wants to cold call and dial for dollars for 6 months. Nobody wants to wait 6 months for a Facebook ad to work or 6 months for a mail campaign to work. People want results in 30 days, but this guy had to wait 6 months until he got his first client. Now, what happened after that was, once he was able to determine that he could at least get somebody who had at least $100,000 in investable assets to invest with him, he moved the limit up, right? He went from $100,000 to $250,000, and that was his next target. And then over the next 8 years or so, I believe he brought in about $280 million in investable assets, right? Now that's like crazy, 20 years ago, in 8 years, he brings in over $280 million as a independent advisor in a wirehouse, right? So he started to realize, a few things as he, progressed throughout his tenure. And that was, he kept raising the bar for the types of clients it is that he wanted to go after. Now, a lot of people always say that, hey, I want to focus on quality. I don't want to necessarily focus on quantity. But he was actually true to his words, right? He didn't care if the person had, in the case of when he was looking for people who had $250,000, if they had $200,000, right? He wasn't taking them. Like, you got to be committed to whatever it is that you say it is that you're going to do. You can't waver and waffle and say, hey, I want clients that have a certain amount, and then when somebody just has a little bit under that, you decide that you're going to go ahead on and work with them anyway. So his commitment to achieving his goal is definitely a part of his success story. Now, what went on to happen after that? Now, after 8 years of being with Merrill Lynch, right, his clientele started to get better and better. He went from, probably just working with people who had everyday, W-2 jobs, to all of a sudden he's working with other business owners, high-level entrepreneurs. And once he realized that, he was able to raise almost $300 million in 8 years, he knew that any further growth or any other 10x goals that he may have, he was not going to be able to achieve those at Merrill Lynch, right? Merrill Lynch was going to put a cap on what it was that he wanted to do. And that was something that was brought up in the book, right? He had all these ideas and different things that he wanted to do, but corporate is going to shut you down. So what did he have to do next? He had to go and strike out on his own. Now, when he went out on his own, right, Merrill Lynch isn't just going to let you take that $280 million with you. They're like, nah, we got to keep this, right? So he had to leave and start completely over. Now, a lot of his clients, right, that he was working with decided to take their money with him, right, because he built that relationship with them, right? They were sold on Chad. They weren't necessarily sold on Merrill Lynch itself. So he was able to capture some of that AUM whenever he went to go open up his new firm. But he raised the bar again. So now he's working, with entrepreneurs and business owners that have anywhere between 7 and 8 figures in liquid assets. And according to the book, at the time of that writing, I believe it was 2022, right? This guy now manages over $1 billion in assets, right? Crazy. You're talking about, a 22-year period. He's now up to $1 billion in assets and counting. And this is all because he was thinking 10x and not thinking 2x. Now, I know I've talked a whole lot, said a whole lot. What does that have to do with you today as a financial advisor? And really just as a business owner, yourself, because again, I own a business. I'm reading the book because I'm wanting to basically get rid of my limiting beliefs, right? So if you're currently working with clients, that have varying amounts of assets, maybe you have minimums, maybe you don't have minimums, I can almost guarantee you are spending just as much time trying to convert somebody who has $250,000 versus somebody who has a couple $1 million. Now, that's not to say that, right, you can't help, people who have less or whatever the case may be. And also maybe your 10X may not necessarily be, multimillionaires, right? If you're just not starting out, your 10X could just be going from 250,000 to $500,000. Everybody's situation is going to be different. The point that I'm really trying to make here is you want to change your mindset and your beliefs around what it is that you can actually achieve. And also be able to look at that in the grand sense of time, right? Time is our most valuable asset that we have. We only have so much time that we're going to be here on this earth, and then we're all going to die and we're going to pass away. So how are you using your time in order to, serve your clients? Now, one of the things that I picked up in this book was, and people say this all the time, right? This whole 80-20 concept where 80% of your results are derived from, let's say the 20% that you focus on. So if you look at, your clients, if you take a look at the top 20% of clients that you serve, I'm almost willing to bet that top 20% likely provides 80% of your revenue. And if that's the case, that means that you're spending a lot of time serving these other clients that, really aren't providing that much value to you, meaning you likely got to have more support staff, which means that's more expenses for the business, which is going to cut into profit. Now, everything isn't going to, always be about the numbers all the time. But when I think about this, even in my own agency right now, and I think about who are the clients that we do our best work for, who gets the best results, it really is only about 20% of our total client roster that is able to, achieve these really, really great results that we are able to help them with. And those are the clients that we actually don't have to spend that much time on. The other 80% of the clients that we typically have, that's where we're spending the majority of the time. And you really have to ask yourself, okay, are these the people that I should actually be serving right now? Is there a higher level client that I could potentially be working with? And this kind of brings me to my second point here, and bear with me because I know I'm just kind of riffing on a bunch of different ideas here. But one of the other things that really piqued my interest in this book is you really want to think about, right, if you're going to raise the bar or raise the level for the types of clients that you're going to work with, and you want to, let's say you're going to go out to people who have $8 and $10 million in investable assets. The one way that you'll be able to achieve that is finding a bigger problem to solve, right? The bigger the problem that somebody has, the more complex it is, the more they are going to value your advice and value what it is that you do, right? Someone who has a little problem, they're not going to value all of the expertise and everything that you bring to the table as much as someone who has, $10+ million in assets and they got businesses that are spread all across, spread all out across the country, like a lot of complexity, right? So if you think about, like, what's that one path in order for me to get from this 2x goal that I have to this 10x goal, you really want to think about, well, what's the 10x problem that I can solve in my particular business, right? So if you're, again, you're just working with, kind of like the mass affluent market, right? Do you want to move up to only working with business owners? Is it only business owners in certain sectors? Maybe some people have more high risk than other people. This is one of the things that was really like a light bulb moment for me, because it got me starting to think about, well, what's the next level up from where I am right now? What's a bigger problem that I can solve for people where they would really value what it is that we do and the expertise that we bring to the table? Because big problems will cause for big solutions, and people will want to pay big money for that. So those are kind of some of the initial takeaways that I got from reading this particular book. And I would encourage anyone to really, one, pick up the book and start reading it. I've only made it to chapter 2 so far. I still got 4 of the chapters to read, but everything that I've read in here so far has really been inspiring. And I would really start to think about what it is that you value at the end of the day, right? Do you value your time as much as you say that you do? Do you really value quality over quantity? If you do, and you're not currently, making decisions or doing things that align with those particular values, then it's a very good chance that you're probably, overworked, you're tired. This is kind of some of the things that I'm experiencing right now in my business, where I'm working a lot of hours in the business and I'm serving more people, but I'm still not reaching this next goal it is that I've set up for myself. Now, I am on track to reach the goal, but the goal really isn't a 10x goal. It really is a 2x goal that I actually have. So, I'm even reevaluating what it is, that I'm doing in my business. And I would encourage you to do the same as well. I was in the Apple store just this weekend. I was leaving from doing some work at a coffee shop, right? A lot of times I like to leave my house and go to a coffee shop and just sit out and do some work, because I just get tired of being in this particular office. But I was leaving and I put my MacBook in my bag, and I didn't zip the bag all the way up. And as I was walking to the car, the MacBook fell on the ground, and it got dented all up. Now, for those of you who don't know me, imperfections just kill me, right? The MacBook was still working. The screen was not shattered or anything, but it had all these scratches and dents all over it. And I immediately went to the Mac store, was like, hey, I want to trade this thing in, because it was going to bother me to just look at this thing and see all these dents on here. But here's what I want to tell you when I get here, right? So I walk into the store. One of the associates, comes up, offers to help me, start asking me about what it is, that I do, because I told him I have an Apple business account. And one of the things that he said was, right, oh man, you probably work a whole lot of hours, right? As a business owner, you're always having to do things, etc. And it really got me to thinking, and that's a common trope that we hear, but we often see, or at least I see, other business owners who don't have to work nearly as much as I do, but they have, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10x the amount of success. Now, this isn't necessarily, I'm not saying that you got to compare yourself to everybody and then be envious or somehow feel like you have to achieve what everybody else has to achieve. But what I do know is that the amount of work that I'm having to do right now in my business does not translate to the revenue and the value that I'm able to provide right now. Meaning I'm having to do a whole lot more. I'm doing a whole lot more right now to only provide 2x value, versus if I was doing a lot less and I only focus on, like, what is the one major problem that I can solve for financial advisors right now? Like, what's that one big problem that a lot of people just can't seem to figure out? And if I only solve that one problem, what would that be worth to someone, right? So that was one of the things that I wanted to kind of, or one of the things that I took away, not only from the book but from this conversation with the Apple Store associate, and that was, right, you don't have to work 40, 50, 60 hours a week in order to achieve your goals. It would take you a lot less time if you were real clear on the one or two goals it is that you wanted to achieve, and the path you would need to take in order to get there. You would spend less time working, more time thinking and strategizing, and then executing on that versus trying to achieve whatever this 2x goal is. Some of the key takeaways that I know that I'm going to end up implementing, and this may seem crazy, especially for any clients of mine that may actually be watching this, is first step is evaluating who it is that I'm currently serving right now, right? Who is the 20% that I enjoy working with, that we're able to deliver the best results for? Because, right, those are all transformational things that we can offer to our clients, right? They're the ones that are going to get the most value out of it. Now, on the other side of this, right, I really also have to look at my team, right? The people that are in my business right now. Are they thinking 10x or are they thinking 2x, right? Trying to get my team to think outside the box, trying to get them to focus on, like, how can we solve a much bigger problem for the clients that we serve? Is going to be one of the things that I'm going to bring up to them, and hopefully they'll be able to take away from from the book as well. Well, so now that I've spent a whole lot of time ranting and raving about this particular book, I am curious, like, who out there, if you've read the book, leave a comment below. Let me know what it is that you've thought. Again, I still have 4 more chapters to read. I'm actually excited about reading the book. I know I said I don't like reading it, but don't like reading necessarily for enjoyment, but I'm actually excited about getting through the other 4 chapters of the book, because I really want to go in and start to implement a lot of the strategies and things it is that the author is actually talking about. So that's all I have for you today. I'll be sure to come back and cover what else I've learned in the remaining 4 chapters in another video. But take care, and I'll see you in the next one.